about influence, and the title is Your Influence. Okay, so how many times a day does your wife tell you to put the toilet seat down? I know it's all influenced us in some way or another because I know it is a natural habit for man now to reach behind him and put the toilet seat down because it is for me. And I don't even have a wife, I just have a mom. But sometimes living at home living at home with a single mom is like living with a wife. Plus, with my little brother there. But it's always a good time. Those two people right there, Dex, my little brother, and my mom, are probably two of the biggest influences of my life, along with my grandparents, my father as well. But I will touch base on my brother and my mom as well as the place that influenced me the most growing up, which was East Texas, and the best experience or best influential experience I've ever had, which would be killing my first deer. But to start off, my mom has obviously been one of the biggest influences on my life because that's who I'm around every day, 24/7 almost. But she's a really awesome lady. She's taught me so much about myself and about herself, how to bloom, how to flower as a person in general, how to raise a kid. She's taught me a lot about that too. As well as raising my little brother too, just watching him grow into the person that he is today and flower and blossom as well. It's really shaped me as a man today. A lot of things I owe credit to them would be for a lot of patience with them. Let's see what else. Steady hands. Not quick to anger as well, because being 19 years old and living in a house with a 6-year-old and a single mom can get pretty annoying at times. But another really great influence on me is East Texas, and that's where I did a lot of my, I guess you could say, running and playing around and stuff as a kid. I would go down there a lot, and that's where I grew up hunting, fishing, doing all sorts of things down there like that, and that also really helped me grow too as a person. Most influential factor it had would probably be the agricultural side of it, planting crops for deer and watching the deer grow and things like that, and harvesting the deer and some of the crops and stuff. That really opens your eyes to how important nature is and how influential nature can be and how much it can teach you if you just open your eyes. East Texas also as well is very different from North Texas, where I really grew up. It's a little bit more of a rugged landscape down there and a lot of different people. So it was always interesting going back down there and seeing all my family and stuff, and having all them rub off on me a little bit. The number one influential experience in my life would have to be killing my first deer. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I'd been deer hunting since I was about 5 years old. I'd never killed a deer. I'd killed a couple pigs, but at 10 years old, I came up with the idea that if my dad were to drop me off at my deer stand, that when the deer heard the four-wheeler leave, that they would show up and they would eat and carry on, so on and so forth. So sure enough, the next morning we tried it, and where I hunted is in a really, really big river bottom, so it's super bad with fog in the morning. And I was sitting there in that deer stand, and all this fog started rolling in from the bottom of the river. And it was super thick fog. I'd never seen it so thick. And it rolled in, and my deer stand set on top of a hill, and as it was coming up the hill, it clouded in around my deer stand, and I could barely see maybe 10 foot out each one of my windows, or 10 yards, 10, 20 yards at the most. And I was getting discouraged. It was getting later in the morning. So I figured I was going to pack it up and go home. And as I was standing up, I look out my window. I hear a small crunching noise, and I look out my window, and not but 15 foot below me is a beautiful, nice little 8-point sitting right under my stand. And this is the closest I've ever been to a deer in my life, and the closest I've ever been to killing one in my life. So when I picked up that gun, I was shaking like a leaf, and I sat down in the chair, and I kind of gathered myself. And I came up, I put the crosshairs on the deer, and I fired. And I'd been so used to missing and wounding deer and following blood trails that never went anywhere that I At this point, as soon as I shot, I already had I was already discouraged. But as soon as I saw that deer turn left and he ran right into this small batch of of pine saplings, he fell. And then right after that, I'd never been more excited in my whole entire life. I was jumping, going all over the place in the deer stand. I almost knocked it over. It was crazy. And but what was the best part about it though would have been when I got down to the deer and I noticed it, and I said a little thank you prayer to God for letting me harvest in this animal, and I called my dad, or I thought about calling my dad, and as soon as I grabbed my phone, he was already calling me. And I answered the phone, and he said, "Oh, did you shoot? Did you shoot?" And I said, "Yeah, I got one. And all I heard was that phone hang up, and I could hear that four-wheeler screaming from my grandparents' house coming right down the road to come pick me up. And he got there, and he was just excited as I was, grinning ear to ear, jumping up and down. But that was a really good time in my life. It really opened my eyes up to how grateful you should be to be able to do things like that every day, to be able to share it with family that respects it as well, and to be able to put food on the table and know how to put food on the table is one of the best influences in my life for sure. But we all have influences in our life, positive or negative. We have bad friends, we have good friends, bad people in our family, good people in our family. But the best thing I've ever learned from any of the influences that I've got would be to keep my head on straight, continue to stay in church, always keep my nose on the grindstone, keep working, keep yourself busy, and you'll always be happy. And I can't thank enough, or I can't give thanks enough to my family, especially my brother and my mom, for giving me so many different influences and different experiences in life and leading me to different places. I can't thank the church enough for giving me different influences and experiences. I can't thank East Texas enough as well. I'm super thankful for all the great experiences and influences I've had in my life, and thank you for hearing my speech.